So we will be recording, and I will share this with everyone afterwards along with the slides. And then let me just share my screen here and I'll pull up the slides. Okay, can everybody see? Let's see. Michelle, can you see that?
I can see it. It looks like people are not on mute quite yet.
Okay. Okay. All right, let's get started then. Welcome, Positive Deviants, as we'd like to call you, for your a weekly dose of positivity during this extraordinary time that we're all facing. I'm Margaret Greenberg. I'm the co-author with Senya Myman of the book Profit from the Positive. And we'll be sharing two out of the 30 plus tools in Profit from the Positive today to help you really manage this time in your life, as chaotic as it is. What are some things that we can do? And I'll be co-leading with Michele Lurvey, who is also an executive coach and is also a Profit from the Positive certified practitioner that she went through our certificate program last year. And she will be leading the session with me today. So a couple of things. You might notice here the achoo effect. So germs and colds aren't the only things that we spread in the workplace and at home. COVID-19, it's not the only thing we spread. Our emotions, both positive and negative, are just as contagious. And now that most of us are working from home, our emotions impact those around us, our family members that we may be living with, and when we're in the workplace, you know, our coworkers and others. So there's really some things that we can do to be sure that we don't unconsciously infect other people with some of our negative emotions. And are we spreading more fear or are we spreading more cheer? So before we dive into the tools, I'd like to start with just a quick exercise to get everybody present. You might be familiar with the term absent presence, whereby we are physically present, and in this case, virtually present, but we're mentally absent. You often see this when people are on their cell phones and someone might be asking a question and they're really half listening, right? Because they're glued to their phone. So I'd like you to just pause for a moment. This is an interactive webinar. This isn't a recording that you can just put your phone on mute and, you know, catch up on your email. I'd like you to just sit back for a moment, close your eyes if you'd like, and begin by just focusing your attention on your breath. Just breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And just notice what emotion is coming up for you in this very moment. You might be a positive emotion, like being excited, which is great because you'll be more open to learning. Positive psychology researchers have found that when we are in a positive emotional state, we're much more open to learning. And of course, we all know that if we've ever tried to brainstorm with someone that's been in a negative mood, it's virtually impossible. And if you're not in such a great mood right now in this moment, that's okay. Again, just notice it and ask yourself, what do I need to do to help shift for these next 25 minutes so that I can learn? Maybe it's, you know, grab a cup of tea. Maybe it's kind of sit up in your chair. But whatever it is that you need to help make you more present. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michele. And Michele, you're going to lead us through a couple of the tools, right?
I am. Thank you, Margaret. It doesn't look like the mute all worked, so maybe we could do that too, just so everyone who thinks they're muted are muted.
Yeah, can you take care of that?
It should be handled now.
Thank you.
Sure.
Fantastic. Thank you. So I always love the absent presence exercise that we do. And excited actually was the word, Margaret, that I was thinking about as we go through this exercise today. And interestingly enough, I think if you would have asked me that yesterday, it would have been a completely different feeling. It would have been overwhelmed, because yesterday in Michigan, where I live, they announced that schools are not going back into session. So I was, dealing with that and thinking about that for my junior high student who's going to now go right into high school. So just how fluid our emotions are and how they change from day to day, I think is just a really interesting thought on perspective. So most of us that are joining this call are probably optimists. Probably positive thinking comes really easy to you. They're typically the people who are looking for even more positive thinking, right? And as we go through this global health crisis, we need a little bit more than positive thinking. We need positive psychology. So I'm going to just back up for 1 second and talk about the difference between traditional psychology and positive psychology for anybody who's not super familiar with it. Traditional psychology looks at what's wrong, where's the problem, what do you need to change to fix it? Where positive psychology looks at what is right, what has worked well in the past, and how can we harness even more of that to do more of the same, do things better. And I always love Margaret's example of constructing a bridge when she says, if you're going to construct a bridge, you don't only want to look at bridges that have failed, right? You really want to look at bridges that have stood the test of time, that positive way. So we're going to do that today in terms of resiliency as a tool. Next slide. Yeah, thanks. We're going to do win debates against yourself. How do we prove to ourselves that we are resilient? Carve a boomerang for others. How can we help them? And then we'll talk about the potato, the egg, and the tea. So resiliency, how we bounce back from things, how we look at past challenges, how do we react to current challenges. Resiliency is kind of one of those I know it when I see it kind of a trait. And I think about people like Oprah and Maya Angelou, who overcame poor childhoods, horrific childhoods in some cases, and became really successful, great leaders and great mentors. I think about people like Steve Jobs and Thomas Edison, who failed time and time again and continue to get back up and made some of the great inventions that we also use today. And I can't help but think about the image of the finish line at the Boston Marathon, where we saw a year after the bombing, people crossing the finish line with prosthetics. That to me is the epitome of resiliency. And I think we would all agree that all of those people are resilient, even though we don't know them, because we know their stories. And stories are so powerful. So what I challenge for you to do today is think about how well do you know your own stories of past challenges, of obstacles. And right now I'd love to use the chat box and share one example of a time when you were resilient and overcame a challenge. So we haven't been through a pandemic before. Any of us haven't been through a pandemic before, but we've certainly have had our own trials and tribulations and have overcome them. We've overcome all of our worst days. So if you could share, is the chat box up, Mia?
Yes, it is. And team, if you don't see it, all you'll have to do on the bottom of your screen is click chat, and you should see a chat box pop up.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So describing just a few words, a challenge that you have overcome in your life. And as you're doing that, I'll share something with you kind of in what I'm talking about is 10 years ago, my brother-in-law died in a really tragic accident. And what I do is use this as an example challenge that I overcame as my family overcame it, because in addition to the huge amount of sadness, I can remember if I sit in that moment, the feeling of, am I ever going to wake up and this not be the first thing I think about? And I had to look for tools outside of my family because they were grieving to overcome that. So I found a support group through my friends, through a support group that deals with death and dying. And that same tool of looking outside my family works today. Because today, in what we're dealing with, I'm the rock for our family. I'm there for my kids. I'm there for my husband. So using that same tool that I used to overcome loss in our family, I can use here today in going through this quarantine. Mia, do you have some answers coming through?
I do, and thank you, Jesse, for participating. So Jesse has shared that her father passing away has been one of those moments. We also have Megan Donahue starting a new job a month before COVID-19.
Wow. So a challenge I'll put out to each of you and how you really can build these tools is when we get off the phone, journal 2 times where you have come through something that was hard and really sit in that moment. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? What were you going through? And then most importantly, this is where the magic happens, right? Is how did you get through that? What tools did you use? And how could you continue to apply those to things like today, the quarantine that we're going through? The health scare, the financial scare.
Michelle, we did, just for reference, hear from a couple other participants. Anthony overcame the cancellation of his college commencement, and Fatma living with chronic pain, facing fear, and seeing herself lonely and depressed, plus her father's death.
Wow. So thank you for being so vulnerable to share those with us, and just knowing that we all go through really hard times, and we've all come through those hard times, and the proof is in the fact that we've come through them and thinking about what tools we'd use to do that. So we'll move on to carving a boomerang for others. And this is, how can we support other people? How can we support our friends, our colleagues, our family? And a great way to boost your mood is to positively influence others, right? So think about the people in your circle that need support and how can you coach them up, and not necessarily coaching them, all the way through the crisis, this long-term thing that we're doing, but all of us need this on a day-to-day basis. So what are some of the things that you can do to support the people that are around you? Margaret, we can move to the next slide too, Mia. Margaret, I know that you make a list of people that you're going to call on a daily basis. You're on mute, Margaret.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Oops.
I'm sorry. Let's move.
You're good to go now.
Let's move to the chat box. I'm so sorry about that. What I would love for you to share in the chat box is, what is one small thing that you can do to support somebody during this time to shift to a more resilient mindset today? And note that the sentence ends in today, because when we tie ourselves to a timeline or deadline or hold ourselves accountable, we're more likely to do it to say, I'm going to support somebody at some point in the future, right? What can we do today? So as we talk about some strategies that the rest of us are using, what's one small thing that you will do to help someone shift to a more resilient mindset today? And I'm sorry, Margaret, that's where I kind of left you. You were talking about some things that you've done with people. And you're on mute, I'm sorry. Margaret, you're still on mute.
Great. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
One of the things, I've been sequestered up here in central Maine for the last, 2.5 weeks. And I've hosted 2 virtual birthday parties for friends over Zoom like this. I've hosted a couple coffee hours, a couple lunch breaks, and I think about 5 happy hours with family and friends, and just to try to stay connected with people. And today it occurred to me, reading about, we don't have a television up here, but I read my news and, what New York is facing. And I thought, oh my gosh, I should reach out to my editor at McGraw-Hill. I haven't checked in with her. She lives in New York. So it just felt so good to connect. And I try to keep a list of people that I just want to make sure I check in with. And it makes us feel better, right? When we do something for someone else.
It always does. I think about if anyone was on last Fridays or the week before that, we've talked about other tools about labeling. And I have a niece who has a 3-year-old who needs surgery for his club foot. And I checked in with her, how are you doing? And her text back was, my anxiety is through the roof. And I said, oh, tell me more about that. What specifically are you anxious about? And then talking about how the surgeries he's had before and the steps she took, and just trying to help people walk through this on a daily basis. Have some people answered, Mia?
Yes, absolutely. So we have Karen, who has said she will deliver groceries to a neighbor as her one small thing she can do today, which is fabulous. Salvador has said that he will offer free coaching sessions.
That's fantastic.
We'd love to hear from everybody else if you'd love to type in the chat box. All right, Fatma, she would encourage them to stay safe with wise people, perform meditation, do relaxation postures. Jessie will make a meal for her roommate. John has said that he will make his wife dinner. It's her birthday. Happy birthday to your wife.
Great. Hi, John.
Nice.
Wonderful. That's all we have right now, Michele.
That's great. That's a lot.
Okay.
And I think, you know, it can be the small thing that supports somebody that you don't even realize how much you are helping them in that particular day. So building your own resiliency is great. Helping others is such a great thing for them. And as Margaret said, makes you feel better. And then I'd like to share with you one of my favorite parables about resiliency. And it's the potato, egg, or the tea. Next. Okay. Okay. If you boil 3 pots of water, and to one you add a potato, another you add an egg, and to the last you add a tea bag, each of the 3 things are facing the same adversity. They're all facing the boiling water. However, each reacts differently. The potato goes in hard, but in boiling water comes out soft. The egg enters the boiling water fragile and comes out hard. And the tea, when the tea is exposed to the boiling water, it creates something new. In life, things happen around us and things happen to us, but what really matters is how we react to it. And I just love that parable. So share that with people if you like it as well.
I love that too.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So for the next, yeah, there we go. So for all of you who are eternal optimists and positive thinkers, please continue to do that. Please continue to be that light and that support for people. And then add to that some of these positivity tools that we're talking about on Fridays, and building resiliency today is the one we talked about, and absolutely helping others around you.
Mia, was there anything else that came up in the chat box?
Yes, thank you for asking. Steve was able to contribute to, the last prop, thinking about that one small thing he can do today. And he shared with us that he's helping his friends who teach disabled people, obviously something they're really struggling with right now in terms of remote learning. So he's trying to help them come up with solutions. Sounds like it's something that's very tough, but something he's helping to do the best they can.
Excellent.
That's fantastic.
Excellent.
And these
Anybody
community
else?
groups are helpful too. I mean, I think just coming together in these community groups and hearing what other people are doing is super helpful. So thank you, Margaret, for hosting these.
And Susan has shared that she's praying.
The power of prayer. Mm-hmm. Great. All right, let's, we'll open up the discussion. We'll turn everybody off their mute in a moment. But what I'd like you to do is to help us identify what are some of the topics that would be most helpful to you as we do these free Friday dose of positivity. What would be most helpful to you? So what I'd like to do is a quick poll, and I'm going to launch it right now. And what would you most like us to cover in our free Friday webinars? And so take a moment. We'll leave this open for about 2 minutes. We'll see what pops up. This morning when we ran this same webinar, We got some great feedback from people, and just take a moment and see what you think would be most helpful to you.
Is everybody able to see the poll? If you could type yes or no in the chat box, that would be very helpful. Thank you, Anthony.
Oh. Managing stress, big one.
How do you want us to respond? On the chat box?
No,
You could actually go right into it.
No, you can't.
Margaret, would you
Mia?
try pressing stop share?
Sure.
All right, let's try this again. How about now? Are you able to answer the poll?
I'm not seeing the poll, Mia.
Okay. Margaret, if you could go down to the bottom of your screen to try to launch the poll again.
Yep. I'll end it for now, and I'll do a screen. You want me to keep my screen share off?
Yeah, keep screen share off.
Okay. Relaunching. Worked great this morning.
It sure did.
Okay.
So what if, for those of you that can't use it, you see it now?
I see it now. Do other people see it now?
I'm
Yes,
seeing
we
some
see it,
head
and it should work. Yep.
Yeah. And you can click as many as you are interested in.
Here we go. We have so much content. It's like, what do people want that we can give them at this time? Managing stress. Improving productivity is quite a few votes. Okay, I'll leave it open for about 20 more seconds. I want to just be mindful of our time. And Mia, while we wait for people to finish the poll, is there anything else in the chat box that we haven't covered?
And nothing currently, aside from Fatma has told us that she wants us to do this next week too. So that's great to hear. Steve has also shared, doesn't want to make this a sales pitch, but if anyone needs help setting up a secure, reliable, usable remote office interface, he's happy to help. So thank you,
Great.
Steve.
All right, thank you,
Karen
Steve.
is thanking us and has to jump on another call, but appreciates the dose of positivity. John has a work story of relevance to share, if that's okay. So let's see.
Yes.
Would love to hear from John.
Hi. So what we did at our company, work for a health insurance company, and to help everybody who's having difficulty coping with working from home and other things in their life, we had an open forum, and we had our chief behavioral health clinician in our company, our chief clinician overseeing all of the rest of our clinicians in our company. They host the meeting, and we've had 500 employees come into the Zoom meeting, and they just step forward and share what's on their mind, and then the woman and man who are hosting the meeting would give feedback to people based upon what they're sharing. A lot of it is just people sharing, and a lot of it is people having some real challenges and getting very practical advice on how to deal with it. You know, the most common thing is really making time for yourself is probably the most important thing to really kind of cut into the stress is the advice that people walk away with. But it's a very meaningful support group that was put together on very short notice and has been very well received.
That's going to just do so much for them moving forward in the future too, that they were there for them and listening, and even for people who really did just want to vent and share and get it out there. And I'm glad you said that about taking a day off, because I was thinking about that too, that all of us are kind of on all of a sudden. You know, I'm doing a ton of extra cooking and I'm trying to work and we're trying to manage all of these things. And I think we forget to take some time to ourselves and some time off. So frozen dinner it was yesterday.
And John, it's so nice to see you, and you're still leading people even during a crisis like this. So really wonderful to see you on this call.
Likewise. Thank you.
Anything else, Mia, in the chat box before we wrap up?
Nope, nothing else in the chat box.
Okay. Then I'm just going to leave you with this last slide, how to connect with us. And we will take a look at the results of this morning's survey and this afternoon's survey. And we'll put together something for next Friday. The times may, next Friday, I think the times will be the same. But after that, our times may change a little bit on Fridays. And maybe we should even consider doing something, maybe one on Friday, one on a Monday to start the week. So we're open to your feedback. We'll be sending you an email with the slides, with a couple articles that'll are very timely, as well as the recording from today. So if you have any other feedback to give us or ideas and timing, please just reply to that email and send it along. Okay. So thank you all. Enjoy your weekend, which probably feels like any other day at this point.
Thank you all
you,
so much for coming. Yeah, thanks for having me. I love it.
Okay. Bye,
Okay.
Mia. Bye, everybody.
Thank you all. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.